Hi everybody and welcome to another Kalicube Tuesdays. I'm Jason Barnard. I'm here with Suzanne Tulien. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thanks for having me, Jason. This is going to be a fun conversation.
I think it is, and I love the red dress. Absolutely brilliant. We go together like, no, I was going to say two peas in a pod, but peas are green, so that doesn't work.
Right. Two cherries.
Ooh, brilliant. A quick hello and we're good to go. Welcome to the show, Suzanne Tulien.
Thank you.
Right, everybody, today we're going to be talking about stop marketing for now, start branding. I love that because Kalicube is all about brand. I'm the brand SERP guy, so this makes a lot of sense. I come from brand and SEO, and I suspect what Suzanne into the mix in a way that we don't at Kalicube, so I'm super interested in that.
Let's talk about that because that's an assumption that so many people have about the term brand. They think that it's marketing. So now this is going to be even a better conversation.
Well, before that conversation, which I'm super excited about, I'm going to look at your brand SERP. This is something I do with every single guest. And when we search your name, we get you as an author coming up, which is absolutely brilliant. This is your knowledge panel, the thing in purple with your name over there on the left at the top. And it's quite small, which isn't a criticism. Most people's knowledge panels are very, very small. It looks great. It shows that Google understands who you are. So in terms of brand, it has understood your personal brand. And so you can build your personal brand into something that means something to Google, which is our focus. And this is what it can look like when you've really done the full work on the knowledge panel, and everything above the fold, everything that somebody sees on desktop when they search is Google's knowledge about me, my personal brand, who I am, what I do, who I serve, and what content is going to be interesting for my audience from the content that I've created over the years. And if anybody wants to learn about that, sign up for our newsletter, kalicube.com/newsletter, and you'll learn how to educate Google to get a knowledge panel like this. But back to branding. For me, that's branding, but I come from search. How does that look? That's Google's understanding of my brand and its representation of my brand. That wasn't a question. I was just kind of wondering what you felt about that, because we've seen this result, which is you, which is great, and that result, which has been worked on. And I work on it from a Google perspective. You're working at it from an audience perspective.
Yes. So what is a brand? I think that's what we really need to define for your audience first.
Okay.
Does that make sense, Jason?
It does. Sorry, okay. I'm not really asking questions. I kind of, what is a brand? Off we go. Sorry, I'm confused.
Yes, off we go. Okay, so marketing and branding are two separate constructs. They're two separate functions, really. So you market a brand. All right, you're out there marketing something that is an entity of some kind, or you're marketing let me just back up. I get so excited about this question because it happens all the time. So marketing is the dissemination of information about the brand. Right. The brand is an entity, is actually simply just a set of perceptions. So marketing is that verb. You're out there disseminating and communicating information about the brand. And if you haven't identified, defined the brand yet, my question for my prospects and clients is, what are you out there marketing? If you haven't done the work to identify, define the brand. So my job as a brand consultant, brand clarity expert, is to go into companies and identify and define the attributes that make up the set of perceptions that the marketing people go out and market. And they're staying in the lane of the perception construct that we've created in the sense of branding. So branding, my job is to assign meaning to the entity, whether it's the entity called Jason or the entity called the company, Brand Ascension, or whatever company it is. So it's a collective entity, or I work with personal brands and we assign meaning to Suzanne or meaning to Jason, right? So once we assign meaning to that, that is the task of branding. It's not a logo. It's not a logo.
Yeah, so your experience with your clients seems to me to be quite similar to the experience we have. Is the first thing that we get when clients come on board is we identify what the entity is, i.e. the person or the company. And surprising though it may sound, a lot of people don't understand, for example, that I, Jason Barnard, are not the same as another Jason Barnard, and we have to disambiguate, or the company and the product might be different. And there's a first conversation to have about what are we talking about? Then you say, for brand clarity, I need to figure out how to describe it. Once you figured out how to describe it, we can market it. And then what Kalicube can do is package it for Google so that you get this kind of communication where Google's fully understood, because that clarity has been communicated through the marketing and the machine has understood. That makes sense, doesn't it?
It does make sense. However, I, as a brand clarity consultant, I do so much more than just identifying the facade of the brand, the attributes of the brand, right? I challenge the client to actually get aligned with what they're promising to become known for, right? So if they've got a set of attributes, they're behaving one way, but they want to be seen a different way, then I help them align those actions and behaviors that help the customer to create congruency in their minds, which builds trust and creates that consistent, purchases, that loyalty that needs to happen in order for you to be successful. So I help you identify, define, and align to the brand that you want to become known for through getting more conscious, strategic, and deliberate in who you are as a brand, what your differentiators are, your core values, your brand style attributes, and how you go about approaching that in your actions and behaviors.
Right. And then so the marketing is then communicating that across the entire internet, across your digital ecosystem to the right audience at the right time.
The marketing has to pay attention to those attributes so that we are discerning differently in which markets we're advertising, right? We're marketing ourselves because there's a fit, there's a market segment or construct, right? So we start discerning differently as a brand when we understand what those attributes are and where they live in the different market segments and channels and who we want to attract and who has the same or very similar attributes, because the relationship will create that sense of trust, right? Oh, you know me, I'm like you, right? That sort of thing. Yeah. So that's branding, is the assignment of meaning. It's not marketing. Marketing is marketing, right? So when you market a brand. So you're not branding as you're marketing. You've actually done that first. Then you go to market with the brand.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Go to market. And I was reading the description and it said 40% of marketing is wasted. And I thought you were going to say 40% of marketing is wasted because the brand message isn't consistent. But you're not saying that, are you? 40% is wasted because?
So the messaging may not be consistent. The messaging might be undermined. So you're delivering in your marketing a promise, a message that is a promise. The delivery of that promise is undermined because people aren't aware of what that promise looks like to the consumer and what their expectations are. So they're not in alignment with that. And if you have employees, oftentimes the employees don't have any idea what the company is out there marketing. They haven't educated the internal construct of the culture of the organization as to what we're actually marketing and promising the consumer. So the employee themselves will often undermine the promise. And that's why the marketing is wasted.
Right. How do you solve that problem, that disconnect between marketing and delivery?
Training, clarity, right? So I have this process. There's this red book behind me called Brand DNA. It's a process I developed way back in 2004. I wrote the book and published it in 2010. And it is a process that flushes out the attributes of the brand. And then as a consultant, I go in and help them inculcate, infuse these attributes into the systems and processes, the leadership and the culture of the organization. So everybody is walking the talk and delivering on that promise. So it's all about that infusion. They have to understand and drink that Kool-Aid of the brand and truly understand the culture they're living in and what the brand stands for.
Right. So, I mean, you say what the brand stands for. It's also what is the brand offering. So we've got the brand and the products or the services. And what I find at Kalicube, at least, is we've got that in the middle, which is who are we and what do we offer, which is sales. And that's great. And then on one side, we've got the marketing. On the other side, we've got the delivery and the production. And it seems in many, many companies, as you say, there's a disconnect between it all. To what extent does the marketing department need to understand the delivery and production or service department? And to what extent does the service department need to understand the marketing department?
Oh gosh, that's longer than 30 minutes. But let's talk about behaviors, actions and behaviors, and what the brand stands for. So there's a set of core values that the brand stands for. If the consumer's experience of the brand is a wow experience and isn't aligned with their core values, they're going to have a much greater affinity to the purchasing or the transactional process of the brand. The product is the most easiest thing to copy. Their competitors can copy the product. So I can buy that product essentially in my mind as a consumer with 10,000 other vendors. But if my delivery is amazing and amazingly consistent and fulfills a promise that I believed I was, promised as a consumer, then that enhances the whole memory of the transactional process and the loyalty that is built with the client customer relationship, right? The business and the client relationship. So that is just it's icing on the cake. So I'm not just selling a commodity anymore, a product. I'm selling an idea. I'm selling a feeling. I'm selling a promise and an expectation and consistency. Because first of all, I want to backtrack quick and just say that every single business out there already has a brand, conscious or unconscious, because the brand is just a set of perceptions. I'm gaining a perception of this brand immediately when I decide I'm going to be interested in the product or service. So I'm collecting information, perception, pieces of information that provides a perception for me that I'm building in my brain about this brand. And then I go experience the brand and it's completely different than what I thought I was being promised. I can either choose that difference is amazing and I'm so glad I did this, or it's like, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? These people aren't at all what they were promising, and they were looking like visually, their visual brand looks like they're so professional. But I came and I created a transaction with them, and it was so unprofessional, right? The employees didn't even know what they were doing, in my experience, right? I'm just role playing here. So that congruency is so important in leveraging the marketing dollars to create the ROI that's necessary for you to keep marketing.
Right, and brilliant point. And from my perspective, I'm wondering now to what extent the brand is the people who make up the company, and to what extent the brand can so to what extent we can say this is what I want the brand to be, and basically bully people into representing what I want my company to represent.
We're not necessarily bullying them. We're saying this is who we are. If you want to come play with us in our sandbox, this is who we are, right? And we're managing the brand at the internal level with the construct in the culture, within the culture of the organization, so that we're walking our talk and delivering on that promise every day.
Right. Okay. And so in terms of training, we have, for example, at Kalicube, an onboarding process that takes about a week.
Yes,
with training, talking to people about what we represent, basically saying at the end of the first week, if you don't agree with all of this, if you don't feel comfortable with this and this approach and what we expect of you and how we approach our work and how we approach our clients, then this isn't the right place for you, and now is the time to get off the bus.
Exactly.
And do you think a week is long enough, was my question?
a week for onboarding.
Yeah.
I think that you should do a survey after that week and ask the new recruits if they feel comfortable and confident with what they've learned, and do they need more information. I mean, that's the only way to tell. It depends on how complex your brand is in the business and what their expectations, what your expectations are of them. So you have to ask them, right?
Right, no, 100%, which makes sense. And what I love about this podcast in particular is so many times people come on the show and say, ask your customer, ask your employees. Whereas I just think, from my perspective, I'm thinking, oh, we can figure it all out, but it's actually just asking people. So a lot of what you said so far is human to human, person to person, one-on-one relationships.
Because perception is a human trait. I mean, we all have perceptions, and that's how we discern how we operate, right? So that is huge. And when you understand a brand is just a set of perceptions, what do I want my logo, my symbol, my visual graphic, which isn't the brand, but that logo ends up becoming over time a representative symbol, a visual symbol that I'm going to start feeling every time I see that visual. I'm going to start feeling what I remember my transaction was all about with that organization.
So my logo is super important. We've got the falcon down there, Kalicube. The Kalicube falcon, white, not black and white here, but in color everywhere else. People need to feel the emotion of what they felt when they were being served, when they were engaging with us. When they see the falcon needs to represent who we are.
So it will come to represent that. So people don't want to hear this, but I often will tell them, I don't care what your logo looks like. That's not your brand. What I care about is what you're wanting that logo to eventually represent after they've had a connection or transaction with you.
Right. Brilliant. Now, you talk about outbehave. Now I understand what you mean by outbehave your to dominate your competition. Can you really quickly explain that? And then we can move on to the 3 attributes, because you mentioned 3 attributes. I love things in threes. So outbehave first, then the 3 attributes, and how do we leverage them?
So I will answer the first question then with the first attribute, because the first attribute is consistency. And when you outbehave, that means you make that extra phone call after a transaction. You check in on your client to see if they're enjoying the product, whatever that might be. When veterinarians started doing that, and this has just been in my experience, the last 6 years, you bring your pet in, they take care of the pet, you take it home. The next day, the vet gets on the phone and calls, how's your dog doing? How's your cat doing, right? That's a behavior that wasn't always there in that market. And they're starting to do it because they're catching on that people want the doctor to care about their pets, right? So it's out behaving. What is that extra little thing that you can do? Starbucks is well known for this. They built that into the Starbucks experience. That's what they call it, right? It's the understanding the multi-sensorial potential that your brand can bring to the table, especially if you're in retail, right? You've got this whole environment that you can create that's more on brand. If you understand your brand, if you're clear about it, what does it sound like? What does it taste like? What does it smell like, right? What is that energy in the retail space? So that's what I mean by out behaving. It's and being more consistent in that becomes more memorable. So the more, go ahead.
Sorry, no, I was just thinking the going the extra mile, as it were, isn't necessarily doing an enormous amount of extra work. It's paying that extra piece of attention that your competition don't, that makes a human connection.
Yes, it could be incrementally, but in different phases of the transactional process and the relationship of the client. So you can be doing these teeny tiny things that mean so much and create memorability. I have this great book by Martin Lindstrom called Brand Sense. It's my Bible in multisensorial experiences for brands. He says that the more multisensorial stimulations that happen within a set situation, the more bonding the client, the customer has with the brand. So I always help my clients begin to really think more visually, more kinesthetically, right? About the feel of the brand, the emotional theater of the brand experience.
So what we should do at Kalicube, this is my new idea, is after month one, or at the end, towards the end of month one, is send our clients a musical donut that's really pretty in the form of the logo, which means that they get the smell, the taste, the sound, and the visual aspect. And we've covered most of the senses.
There you go. You know,
Touch as well. So we've covered all 5 senses. Brilliant.
you could become known for that, right? I mean, that is unique. It's out behaving the competition. And so I'm a big proponent of taking care of your people first before you start creating these, sometimes people might call them gimmicks,
Yep.
out there. They have to be relevant to the brand's perceptual construct.
Yep.
Remember, it's the assignment of me. So if they're outside of that and it just doesn't make any sense for your consumer, it's not going to do anything. It's in fact going to create cognitive dissonance instead of cognitive resonance. But I would say, if you go back to your people that you're onboarding and taking them through this week-long thing, what are you continuously doing for them to infuse the brand, those set of perceptions that you're wanting them to believe in and become more of?
Right. I mean, I think kind of the thing for Kalicube, and this is just bringing it all back to our own company, is that Kalicube is the reassuring advisor, the trusted advisor who's guiding people and companies, or people who are running companies, through the scary digital landscape with these AI machines that are taking over and saying, well, we can give you back self-determination. We're here to hold your hand and help you with that. And that is hugely important. So it's reassuring, expert, and accompaniment, and I suppose shouldering the responsibility, shouldering the difficulties, and relieving our clients of the fear. So we need to be hugely confident, and we need to know what we're doing.
Absolutely. You are experts in your industry, and highlighting that in making something look that seems so complicated to one client becomes so streamlined and efficient and easy for them to become who they want to be known for, because you guys understand what you're doing.
Which is beautiful. Brilliant.
Yes.
So we've got 3 attributes, though. That was the first one. What's the second one?
So the consistency was number 1, right? The second one is engagement.
Right.
So I really want you to think about how your brand engages. Again, I always start with the internal client, your people, because you can't express the brand outside of that without them truly understanding that. So what is their experience, and how do you engage them in understanding the brand even better and better and better? And then what are you doing to your peeps out there, your tribe, the people that follow you, the people that love what you do and help promote and advocate for you, right? Create some more engagement. Ask for their opinions on certain things so they can engage in the process of maybe developing a new product or developing, something that you want to launch. So engagement is huge. Find all the intricate ways that you can engage, but make sure you're in the lane that you've created from that brand construct, right? The personal construct. Right. And it makes sense. So cognitive resonance, right?
So we're engaging using the lens of the brand itself by really nailing it down with our team, making it resonate with the tribe, and make sure that the tribe are on board and that they really are the true believers, let's call them. And I think at Kalicube we talk a lot about believers. And then also engaging with the wider audience and bringing in those who can become part of our tribe. And you were saying that it needs to resonate. We need to have some kind of agreement. We only want people in our tribe who actually believe and understand our brand message, and with whom we're going to be comfortable, and vice versa.
Exactly. So the clearer you are that contract, or I always tell my clients to ask these questions: am I on brand or off brand? Is this decision on brand or off brand? Am I hiring someone that is on brand or characteristically off brand, right? Have the same value construct that we do. They're not a fit for the culture that we're trying to portray, right?
Mhm.
What is that? So we understand if they're a good fit or not, both clients and in the employees internally.
Brilliant. I love the fact that we're getting brand from beginning to end, from the employee to the client to the prospect. It's absolutely brilliant. And the third one after consistency and engagement is
distinction.
right.
So we talked about out behaving. So how are you distinctive from the 5,000 other local SEO experts in your area, in the world, however, what your market landscape looks like? So you really want to look at, how do you out behave? What are you uniquely offering? I have a whole chapter in my book about fleshing out those differentiators and really understanding the distinction. Again, not only for the user, the end user, your audience, but for the employees. Because if you want to retain those great employees and pay them well and have a fabulous benefits package, which is a differentiator, if you compare yourself to other companies in your space, what is their value package? What is our value package, right? And what do we offer them? How do we invest in their own trainings? Do we offer them a greater vacation package? Those types of things. And then look at, it's just these little tiny things that create that huge gestalt brand experience when people understand the brand at a higher level.
Which is brilliant. Absolutely perfect. Now, I always ask this at the end before the final question. Is there anything that I didn't ask that you want to answer? And the answer is yes, because you've got your hand up.
No, I was pointing to my book. Just go get the Brand DNA book, and it has all of this written in there.
Which is brilliant. Yeah, so any questions I didn't ask are now answered in the Brand Clarity book, which is right above your head. For those who are listening on audio, you can't see it, but it's Personal Brand Clarity, Suzanne Tulien. Is that the correct way of saying your name?
It's actually Suzanne Tulien. And then Brand DNA is the book for employers who have employees. Personal Brand Clarity is the solo professional, the broker, the agent,
So absolutely perfect. Now, the last question, always about branded search. How does brand clarity in general help with branded search?
Okay, great. So I would say that as we talked about before, that the clearer you are on what your brand stands for, right? You have super clear, crystal clear clarity, the more able you are to discern if your marketing is hitting the right areas, the right channels, and is showing up in the way that you want to become known for. So without that clarity, it's grade. It's a blur. Like, you see yourself up there, you're showing up in all these different areas, but are you showing up incongruent with who you want to be known for? So that's how it helps.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much. And that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And now we're going to introduce next week, which is going to be, excuse me, why you're missing out on 95% of your best prospects, Derby, Copenhagen. It's going to be super interesting. I really, really want to know why I'm missing out on 95% of my best prospects, because Kalicube is going great guns, but if we're missing out on 95% of our best prospects, it could be going much better. Could you possibly pass the baton, Suzanne?
Sure. I'm interested in Darby's podcast as well with you, Jason. Darby Copenhagen is a proud husband and father, an avid fisherman, as I am, a fly fisher woman, an old school hip hop junkie and lover of barbecue, soccer, cold beer, and cheap wine. He partners with Jason Swank in helping agency owners create more predictability, wealth, and freedom by implementing the right systems and processes. So I'm looking forward to this as well. So let's all join Jason in interviewing him next time.
That's absolutely brilliant. It's going to be wonderful next week. And it was wonderful this week. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Thank you, everyone, for watching. A quick goodbye to end the show. Thank you, Suzanne, and everyone. Kalicube. It's all about your brand SERP.